Cue the comments asking whether or not I'm going to do a video on camping next. The answer is maybe. I'd like to tell you all a story. So, very early into my time playing Dead by Daylight, I was a baby Ghostface main, because I love Ghostface, and that was the entire reason I started playing. Around 8 hours into my experience, I came across a squad on the Dead Dog Saloon. Now, this squad was my very first bully squad. Back then, though, I didn't know that. And that's going to become important very soon. So what happened is I ended up downing an Otta on the top balcony, and she fell down in front of a locker, because of course she did, because this was a head-on flashlight bully squad, and this was back when you could still get flashlight saves out of lockers. So essentially what happened was they were continuously head-onning me, continuously flashlight blinding me. I had no fucking idea what was going on because I had no one there to tell me what was actually happening. The only person in chat at the time was my mod SZA, and he had only ever played like 1 hour of the game before, so he also had no idea what was going on. And essentially what ended up happening is I ended up 4King because they didn't do any generators. Their entire time was dedicated to making my life miserable. And apparently, somewhere in there, I ended up tunneling an Otta. However, at the time, I didn't know what tunneling was. I didn't know who Otta was. So when this group came into my chat and started screaming at me basically over the chat about why was I tunneling Otta, and I kept saying, I don't know what you're talking about. What is tunneling? Who is Otta? I don't know what you mean. I don't know what you're talking about. I eventually remember pulling up my Steam listing and screaming, I have less than 10 hours in the game, and then banning all of them, and then quitting my stream in tears because I had no idea why I was being harassed like this. I didn't know at the time that some squads just like to make the killer's life miserable. Nowadays, it doesn't bother me as much. It's kind of irritating, and I'm just like, oh my fucking god, here we go. But I don't give as much of a reaction as I used to. The point of that story is, this was the first time I had ever heard of tunneling. Now, I can't tell you if I actually tunneled the Otta or not. What I can tell you what probably happened is they kept saving her, and she was the only one injured because she was the bait, and so I kept downing her until I could hook her because they kept saving her. And I wouldn't really call that tunneling. So what I believe tunneling actually is picking a survivor and only chasing them and only hooking them. If you down a survivor and they save that survivor, and then you down that survivor again, and they save that survivor again, and you never get to hook that survivor, I don't really know if I would call that tunneling. I would call that being stupid, because you should at some point switch targets or learn how to, chase away flashlight savers, but I'm not going to blame 8-hour experience me for the knowledge that 1,300-hour experience me has. So the point is a lot of people will call tunneling toxic. And I think that this idea of tunneling being toxic comes from the fact that people take it personally. Listen, tunneling is something that sometimes needs to be done. There's a distinct difference, I believe, between a strategy and not needed. If you tunnel someone at 5 gens, I don't think that's needed. I think it's kind of ridiculous. I think that you're kind of bad at the game if you feel the need to tunnel at 5 gens. However, I also understand if it's like 3 gens and you haven't gotten anybody dead and you know another gen is close to completion, then yeah, maybe you want to try to get somebody out of the game so that you can have a chance to win. Because surprise, surprise, some people play this game to win. And I know that triggers, I don't like using the word trigger. I know that upsets a lot of you, right? I know that some of you are like, oh my god, why are you taking the game so seriously that you're playing to win? But I truly believe that playing to win is not a bad thing. And I think that while some people may find it frustrating or annoying, even I do sometimes when the killer is like obviously sweating like they're in a tournament, or the survivors are sweating like they're in a tournament, it'll be like, come on, man, what the fuck? Why are we doing this? But at the same time, I don't believe in shaming people for it. But back to tunneling. Is tunneling toxic? No. It's not. It's a strategy. Sometimes it's a bad strategy, but it is a strategy. And it's something that I think a lot of people just kind of forget, that the best pressure the killer can have is for someone to be dead. That is better than any perk, any amount of hook states, any amount of slugging. If someone is dead and out of the game, it is significantly harder for the survivors to finish their objective. Now, a lot of people have argued in the past about survivor-induced tunneling. This is something that's been very big, and I want to talk a little bit about it because people have asked whether or not tunneling is the fault of the survivor or the killer. And the last time I talked about this, I think people kind of misunderstood me when I said if you're being tunneled, there's a very good chance you're just bad at the game. And because a lot of people took that to mean, oh, 100% of the time, if you're being tunneled, you're just shit at the game, you suck, fuck you, eat a dick, get better, watch some guides. That's not what I meant. What I meant is that sometimes survivors are the problem when it comes to tunneling. I do my best not to tunnel. I will try my best to go after somebody else in between each hook. Because the thing is that I've learned over my time playing Dead by Daylight that if you don't hook each survivor one time and then start the process back over from the first one and hook each of them one time and then start it all back over, I've learned that if you don't do precisely that, then survivors will call tunneling like every time. But that's not what it is, right? We know that's not what it is. If I down a Meg and I hook her, and then I go across the map and I down a Dwight, and then I hook him, and then I come back to the hook and down the Meg again and hook her, that's not tunneling. I didn't tunnel Meg off the hook because I went and downed a Dwight as well. But other things that I don't consider tunneling are if you get unhooked and I go all the way around the map looking for someone, and then I just happen to stumble into you, I'm not tunneling you. You just happen to be there. I cannot count the number of times where someone has been quote unquote tunneled out by me. And what really happened was they were just the only survivor I can catch. And that's what I mean by tunneling can sometimes be a skill issue, because if you're not good enough to get away from me, if you're not good enough to out-loot me, then yeah, I'm going to down you and hook you. And I'm sorry, and that sucks, but I'm not throwing the game for you. But on the other hand, a lot of people, like Scott Jund, for example, has said that survivor-induced tunneling is always on the unhooker. If the unhooker unhooks within the terror radius, if the unhooker unhooks and then vanishes into fucking thin air, because that's happened quite a few times. And I halfway agree with that. Sometimes it is the unhooker's fault. Sometimes it is the person being tunneled's fault for just not playing the game correctly. But really interesting to me is people who have said, well, it's always the killer's fault because at the end of the day, it is the killer's choice. And sure, at the end of the day, it is my choice to target the same survivor that just got off the hook. But if I'm in a position where either I need a kill right here and now because I haven't been able to catch anyone else, I haven't found anyone for like 2 minutes and you're the first person I find, you decide to body block with your base kit borrowed time, like at one point you got to realize that sometimes the killer is just being smart or they're playing to win, which if we go back to what I said earlier, there's nothing wrong with playing to win. And I really hate the way that the community approaches playing to win, because at some point, they just want you to throw the game, right? They just want you to throw the game and not do anything. It's the whole face camping at in-game argument all over again, right? Where people are like, oh, why would you face camp at the end game, you toxic piece of shit? Just leave the hook. Like, why would I let you get a free unhook? Why would I let you do that? Why would I let you win the game for free? I have you in a position where I could possibly turn the game around. The game is not over till it's over. Until everybody is seeing that end screen, the game isn't over, and I'm not going to give you that free win. So the last thing that we need to talk about is people have said or asked that behavior add more anti-tunneling things, and I just don't know about that. I have said for a while, in my opinion, that the base kit borrowed time endurance should be replaced with an invulnerability, right? So if you get unhooked in front of the killer can't physically hit you for what is it, 10 seconds, I think. The killer, you know what I mean? That stops shit like Myers face camping to fucking Mori off of Hook, and Bubba face camping to eat through your base kit borrowed time in a literal instant. I think that should be a thing. And I think that's fair. Some people might not, but other than that, we have so many options, bro. We've got off the record, we've got decisive strike, we've got dead hard. We have so many anti-tunneling options, and I've always said that I'm not a fan of using perks to fit bad game design, but I don't think that tunneling is bad game design. I think that it is something that needs to be given to the killer because, again, we are in an asymmetrical game. There is one killer and 4 of you assholes. The killer needs advantages. They need to be able to overcome some of the stuff. So if you're mad about tunneling, run anti-tunneling perks. If you don't have any, I'm sorry to hear that. I don't know how to, like, that sucks for you. But that's just my whole thing. If you're mad about tunneling, you need to learn how to get better at the game and run anti-tunneling perks so that you can overcome what is a strategy. You can counter the strategy of tunneling. It's just difficult to do. So, in conclusion, tunneling's not toxic. It's not as bad as people say it is. There's a lot that can be put on your shoulders instead of everybody else's, and sometimes the killer is just an asshole and there's nothing you can do about it. But I don't make these videos just to spout my opinions at you guys. I make these videos so I can hear your opinions as well. So please leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think. Is tunneling that bad? Is it toxic? Do you hate it? Do you love it? Whatever the case may be. And as always, a great big special thank you to my channel members listed on screen now. If you want to find out how to become a channel member today and get cool perks like seeing videos early and merch discount codes, then please click that join button down below. Love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one.